Back here with another episode of the Next Panel podcast for the first time in a few weeks here today. We're taking a break from the Marvel Star Wars stuff and talking DC for a little bit here today with the most recent Peacemaker series that just wrapped up in late February. Such a great show. I had a chat about it here today. All of us have seen since seeing the show rather. Just wrapped up a few weeks ago, as I said, starring John Cena, James Gunn series. Really good stuff. We'll get right into it here and our expectations for it going in, thoughts coming out of it, where they go from here, and how the show, for as high hopes as I had for this show, it even exceeded those. So we'll get into all of that. But of course, joining us per usual, we got Chris from the Twitter machine, Chris Mueller, Doc, BR_Doctor. Chris, what's going on, my man?
Not much. Just waiting for Moon Knight to start.
I'm hoping this kind of holds us over until then, because we still have Batman to talk about too, which came out a few weeks ago for when we're recording this right now, and I'm looking forward to it. What was that?
Still have yet to see Batman.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I've just been kind of busy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there's some people that are just like have no interest in seeing it just because, for whatever reason. I mean, there's a number of reasons, but when you do get to see it, we'll chat about it at some point. Phil, you're here as well. Phil DL616 from the Twitter machine. Phil, what's going on, dude?
Going on. I still haven't seen Batman either. I do think all of this
lagging.
Yeah, I do think that it's a bit funny after all this time, and I'm watching some Snyder and DC fans hate James Gunn for the longest because of the Guardians movies, and he's now produced 2 really good projects for them.
Yeah, we talked about Suicide Squad. I don't know if we had you on for that one, Phil, but I know we had, I think, Bill Pritchard, right, Chris, when we spoke about that last summer, I think? Talking about the Suicide Squad, the most recent one.
I honestly can't remember who we have on for which episodes anymore.
I just have a weird memory, but I think I remember we had Bill on for that one, because we don't really talk about DC all that much, like I said, but with Peacemaker, I know we had to make an exception. I mean, if there's any good DC stuff that comes out, and I'm sure we'll talk about, I mean, there's a lot of movies, I think, coming out this year alone. Obviously, Batman was just released. That's one of the DC things we'll talk about when you guys get a chance to see it. What else is coming out this year? I know Shazam 2, I think, got bumped to December. That might be the only other DC-related movie/major show coming out this year, right?
I mean, we got Black Adam at some point, I think, or did that get pushed back?
Oh, it did get pushed back, but I think that might still be this year. Maybe Shazam got pushed back the next year. I think Black Adam might still be out in the summer, I think. That might be July.
Other than that, I'm not really sure. But I know Peacemaker at least got picked up for a second season. I just have no idea when that's supposed to start.
Yeah, I would say. Maybe next year. Yeah. Unless they already started filming for it. That's what I was curious about, too. But it is funny when you talk about, Phil, about how, like, with James Gunn producing the Guardians stuff and DC fans not, being a big fan of his until he comes in and completely kills it with Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. Like I said, I already kind of had high hopes for the show based off what we saw from the Peacemaker, John Cena character, and everyone else involved in the show that we saw briefly in Suicide Squad. What were you thinking going into the show? Did you know it would be a hit knowing it was produced by James Gunn and it would be kind of his brainchild, or were you still a bit unsure even after what we saw in Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I was interested based off of Suicide Squad because Suicide Squad was much better than I thought it would be. And at this point, I trust James Gunn. He has a good track record.
I mean, with almost everything he touches, it's cool. I mean, this obviously had that James Gunn influence, and if you watch the first episode, you could tell that it was produced by him, even obviously without seeing the opening intro and the name and everything like that. But you kind of get that James Gunn feel from it, which I like a lot. What about you, Chris, as far as his influence on this project and what you were looking forward to going into it, and if it ultimately delivered?
I'm pretty sure that there's probably a tweet the day this was announced where I said, James Gunn is going to do for John Cena what he did for Batista. Make him an even bigger star by leaning into how funny he is as this character.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that John Cena is going to be a superhero character, like if you told me that probably like 4 or 5 years ago, I would envision something along the lines of like a DC version of Captain America or whatever, because that's just kind of the mold that he fits to me anyway, just off the top of my head. But no, they went in a completely different direction with this, and they lean into the humor stuff and the entertainment aspect of the character a lot, and I thought he did a great job. Can you talk? Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
He would have been a great choice to play Walker in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, he definitely would have been.
It was like, man, he would play a great twisted Captain America.
He really would. I mean, just even what we saw from him here, and I mean, he's gotten so much better too. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the greatest actor of all time, but he absolutely has improved. And from what you've seen of Cena, Chris, if anything else beyond this, can you agree this might be his best project? I mean, this is definitely his best project, but as far as his acting chops and all of these movies and shows, is this the best version of Cena we've seen so far?
I would say so. I don't think I've enjoyed him in anything as much as I've liked him as this character. But a lot of that can also be attributed to the fact that he was allowed to go like hard R with the language.
Yeah.
And it's like that always just adds a little bit to these comedic things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the fact, like you said, that it was on HBO Max, that kind of had no limitations there as far as what they could say and do, really helped. Anything I've seen him in, like I know that I saw that movie, I think it was called Blockers or something, where he was like a dad or whatever. That was actually pretty entertaining. I actually enjoyed that for as dumb as it was. He does a lot better with these type of roles where he's allowed to be... We've seen shades of funny Cena in WWE to an extent, but not quite to this extent, obviously. This would have been a great, entertaining heel Cena if we're still in like the Attitude Era, for example, and we're finally getting it now, which is great. What about you, Phil, and your thoughts on Cena's performance throughout the show?
I thought he did great. I mean, I think the thing that James Gunn managed to get out of a lot of actors is he does get them to do the humor well, but he also gets actors to emote very well. And I feel like this was definitely like the most range we've seen Cena show so far.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is the most range we've seen. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something, Chris?
No, I just totally agree. Like, this is definitely the most challenged he's ever been as an actor.
Yeah, I mean, from start to finish throughout the show, we see him go through a lot of development as far as his character is concerned, and not just him too, but the rest of the cast that they have on board here. From I'm gonna botch his name, but Chukwudi, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but he plays Clemson. I think that's how you pronounce his name here on the show, but I thought he did a great job. Danielle Brooks was very good. Robert Patrick as well. Steve Agee. I've seen him from Superstore, which is completely different from this, but that's where I remember him from. And he was also in Suicide Squad as well. Was there anyone else from the cast that really stood out to you, Chris, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. Jennifer Holland or whatever.
Jennifer Holland. Yep.
Who I didn't realize was James Gunn's like longtime girlfriend.
Really?
Until they announced engagement. Yeah, they're together.
Dude, you just broke news to me. I did not know that.
Yeah, so James Gunn and Harcourt are a thing, man. Like, it's so funny that he would write a guy like John Cena to be interested in his girl.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do an all-out sex scene, but there was one nude scene at the very beginning of the show in either episode 1 or 2 with his girl. I mean, that's pretty crazy now that I think about it. That's wild.
Yeah, it's funny to me, but I really liked her, actually, throughout the show. They did a good job making her funny and capable.
Yeah, I thought she was a highlight. What about you, Phil? Anyone else stand out to you beyond Cena?
Probably, I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head that plays Vigilante, but he's hilarious.
Yeah. Freddie Stroma, I think his name is, right? Yeah, he does an awesome job. He gave me big... For honestly, until they revealed before he took off the mask, I thought it would be like a running gag where we don't know who was under the mask. He gave off big, maybe this was just me, like Ryan Reynolds Deadpool energy. Do you think James Gunn kind of used inspiration from anything else for this project, in your guys' opinion? Or, I mean, some of these characters kind of felt similar to other stuff we've seen before, but not in a way where it felt like it was copying or whatever. But it was also original, and that was, I thought, one of the best highlights about it as well. Did you kind of feel that same way, Chris, as far as his character is concerned? Because I thought, like Phil said, I thought he was a highlight as well.
Like, I could see, because he's sort of a chaotic character, why people might get Deadpool energy from him. I didn't really make that connection. I just thought it was so funny to me that he took that character in the exact opposite direction of the comics. Like, he is a super serious, very kind of tragic character in the comics. And... Yeah. But he's only been really portrayed in live action once before this on Arrow. And so they sort of had license to be like, this isn't a widely known, deeply beloved character. We can make him whatever we want and people won't really care. And what they did with him was so freaking funny. Like, there's the scene in the prison, I loved it so much when he's walking through this line of guys saying what must be the worst things in the world to him, and he doesn't flinch at all. And then he goes in and just owns those white supremacists. And then just, like, once they established that he actually is a badass, his character became even funnier to me.
Yeah, no, that was funny. That was a great scene. The scene where he's getting his toe chopped off and Cena won't relent because he's like, no, that's not my best friend. Or what? He's like just showing that he doesn't care about as much as Vigilante thought he did, which I thought was great. That was a running theme throughout the show that I thought they really nailed. Two things based off what you just said, Chris, but the shots they take throughout the show to people like Green Arrow, the Justice League, leading to that, I mean, spoiler alert, but that awesome cameo by Aquaman and Flash at the end of the show, I thought was just fantastic. Your thoughts on how to kind of weave that stuff in there with the mention of other DC characters throughout the show?
Are you asking me or Phil? I'm sorry.
No, I'll start with you, Chris. Yeah.
I mean, the cameo is obviously awesome. That was really funny, and it's really cool to find out that Marvel actually let him film part of that on one of the sets for Guardians.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Just like, oh yeah, you need to do this thing for this other show you were doing? Sure. Just go ahead and use our green screen set. Like, I'm pretty sure Momoa and Ezra Miller weren't even on set together.
Really?
Like, I think that was two different pieced together things. And apparently, I think they had tried to get Affleck, and at one point it looked like he might do it, but then it didn't happen, and that's why you don't even see him in silhouette, like him and
Gal, right? Gal Gadot or whatever her name is.
You see her and Superman in silhouette, right?
Yeah, we don't see her face, but like I think we see the back of her or something like that. Yeah.
So it was Cyborg and Batman who were sort of left off of this.
Oh, okay.
Wonder why we didn't see Ray Fisher.
Well, there were two actors who were actually cast and filmed as stand-ins for them, and they were just edited out.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, there must be a reason beyond that, and they never revealed what that was.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if James Gunn has revealed like why they decided to go from all 6 to just the 4 of them.
Yeah,
maybe they could only get 2 of them in real life, and it just seemed easier to do it this way. But yeah, the running gag of them, like, of Cena just believing all these dumb things he's read online about Aquaman and Batman and all this other stuff, it sort of feeds into something they've already established in DC, which is, like, on the Harley Quinn cartoon, she just says that Batman fucks bats all the time. Like, and that's why it's really funny to me that like, James Gunn has said that the one thing DC pushed back on and almost didn't let him do was having Peacemaker call Batman a pussy, but it was okay for him to say Aquaman has sex with fish and Superman has a poop fetish and, like, all this other just terrible things. And it just goes to show you that the way DC executives view Batman is so different from the way I think a lot of fans view him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how Momoa took it in stride when that guy Brandon Davis from comicbook.com, the video that you shared over DM a while ago, Chris, when he brought up if he fucks fish or whatever, and then he just walks away, like, obviously jokingly on the red carpet a few weeks ago, which I thought was great. What were your thoughts on that, Phil? I mean, obviously this is a very comedic show. I think it was very fitting with what they were going for with Peacemaker, but the many references and shots, quote unquote, that they took to other DC characters over the course of the show.
James Gunn is a genius. That's all I can say for it. I think him taking something that is on the surface very juvenile and kind of funny, and making it a character thing for Peacemaker, and showing like, oh, he's doing this because he's insecure. Yeah, it's such a great running gag, but it's also such a good description of who Peacemaker is.
Were you familiar with the Peacemaker comic, Phil, before going into the show, or no?
No. I was familiar with Vigilante from Teen Titan Comics.
Okay.
And he's very different in the comics.
And you said you were familiar with it, Chris, or no, you just were slightly aware of it?
My main character came from the show Arrow, because he is one of the main villains in, like, season 7, I want to say, or 6. I forget. But that version, even though they also took quite a few liberties from the character in the comic. It was still significantly different from the comic book version.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like at that point James Gunn was like, we don't have to do anything that they've done from the comics. We're just using the costume, the name, and everything else is up for grabs.
I mean, like I said, you could definitely tell James Gunn had such influence on this show because it was very similar to Guardians with some of the stuff they went for and the comedy just being genuinely funny and entertaining, but making it different enough where it's like Guardians rated R, so to speak, as you were kind of saying before, Chris. Just kind of talking about what they were going for with the show and how they hit it and why it makes you look forward to this next season. Where do you think it goes from here? And again, I'm jumping all over the place as far as stuff that happened over the course of the show, and I'll get to the intro in a second because I thought that was outstanding, obviously. But where do you think, what more can they accomplish with season 2? Is this a one and done, or do you think this is the best that it gets with this show, or is there more to come as far as more things they can kind of explore in future seasons?
I honestly don't know what they do from here, because they pretty handily resolved the story arc from this year, you know?
Yeah.
So they're really just open to do whatever. I kind of hope that they continue to go down that path of let's bring in some obscure characters from the comics, because Harcourt is a character from the comics.
Oh, wow, okay.
Like, not a huge, well-known character, never had her own book, but, like, she is an existing person. So, and economist, too. So, yeah, go that route and, like, keep Vigilante for sure. But,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, bring in somebody just really like, he mentioned Matter Eater Lad. I would laugh so hard if James Gunn actually got Matter Eater Lad into live action, because that's just one of those ridiculous characters that people make fun of.
And the other characters you want to see incorporated into the show?
I mean, I'd love a cameo from any of the other DC people again, but I have no, like, hopes for anything specific. I just want it to be just as good as this season.
Wasn't there, in that first episode, and obviously they showed him later on, the ape or gorilla that they had, the killer ape or something like that. I forgot the actual name that they used for the gorilla in the show. But isn't that like a DC villain or something like that? I remember reading, and obviously they didn't go in that direction, but I think people kind of had their hopes up for that. Do you know what I'm talking about or no?
I mean, were people thinking it was Gorilla Grodd? Because I don't think that was implied.
I don't know if that was it. There might have been another one. I'm not sure. Are there any other... what was that, Phil?
I mean, there's Gorilla Grodd. There's, what is the Doom Patrol villain? It's a gorilla as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's got to be another one. I mean, I don't know if it was that one. That one doesn't sound familiar, but I think that's what some people were expecting anyway with the tease of that in the first episode, and they say that they got loose from the zoo or whatever, and then they ended up showing him getting sawed in half in one of the other episodes. That was crazy. What were your guys' thoughts on the violence in this show? I mean, they really went fucking all out. I mean, obviously the first episode really set the tone when they had that the butterfly in the form of a person get blown up by Cena, which was just disgusting. And then, like, her face was on the ground or whatever when the cops came later. They really got fucking, like, disgusting with the show, which I guess they should expect nothing less from James Gunn. But, I mean, they really took their limitations, or their freedom, rather, with the HBO Max platform and really went all out. What were your thoughts on that, Chris?
I mean, I never thought that it was, like, there is a level of violence that'll put me off, and this never quite got to it. This was almost cartoonishly violent.
Yeah.
Similar to Suicide Squad in that way. The fact that James Gunn used just another giant kaiju-like villain for this right after Suicide Squad was a little weird to me, but, you know, that is what it is. He likes that kind of weird stuff, so. But yeah, it didn't put me off too much.
What about you, Phil?
No, the violence didn't bother me so much. There were certain things about it that, you know, I expected it to be kind of over the top because they're kind of selling us on a villain. And we watched him nearly die in a very violent way in Suicide Squad. So I expected violence.
I mean, that last scene, not the last scene, but that last episode alone where they're going off and killing all the butterflies, and then you see, I forgot his name, but Steve Agee's character gets he just like tripped, like of all the things that could have happened to him before he can even get into the battle, like he trips and his leg falls in like a bear trap or something like that. I forget, but that was pretty fucking gross. Yeah, it never got to the point where it was like a turnoff for me, like you said, Chris, which I appreciated, but it was gruesome enough to kind of stand out from other stuff that he's done and other stuff we've seen in the DC universe up to this point. Gotta address the obvious elephant in the room here with the intro. I mean, there's so many shows that I watch where I'll just skip over it, and they have that little skip intro option on HBO Max, Netflix, pretty much every streaming platform. I don't think I hit that button once. Of the 8 episodes of the show that they did, or 7 or 8 episodes, these were just, they were just great every single time. They're obviously going to have to change it, I would assume, for the next season, because there's several characters in that intro that got killed off over the course of season 1. So I don't know if they'll do the same song. I would assume they'll probably do something different, because they used that song, obviously, in the final battle. So that, to me, felt like, okay, this is the finale, the last time we'll hear it, and they'll probably do something else, which I'm sure they'll knock that out of the park, too. But this was just, I mean, this went viral. It's got a lot of hits on YouTube and stuff like that. Had a lot of people talking before I even saw the actual show. The intro itself really sets the tone for the show remarkably well. What were your thoughts on that, Chris, and how it kind of, again, like I said, kind of set the tone for the rest of the season?
Not only did I never once skip the intro, I watched it multiple times on like YouTube and Twitter too.
Same.
So freaking good. And the fact that like James Gunn was just inundated with requests to release a full video version of it that like first day, to where he was like, fine, here, take it. Like,
yeah,
that's hilarious to me.
Were you familiar with this song before it was in the show? Because I guess it was some sort of obscure song, and then he obviously made it relevant again, and they got a record deal out of it, I guess, which is pretty cool. Were you familiar with the song at all, Chris, or no?
I was not, no.
Yeah, this was completely new to me. So to hear that like he's helped them get more success and become more well-known is pretty fucking cool. And I don't know if he would use a different song by them. Wigwam is the name of the band.
Band, or is it some 80s hair metal band I'm not familiar with? Like, who...
This is a song from like 10 years ago. I was thinking when I'm listening to him, like, is this a song from like 30, 40 years ago that I'm just not familiar with? But Wigwam... let me click on Wikipedia right here. Norwegian glam metal band formed in 2001. So I guess that's I don't know. I guess it's like a tribute band, like to the like in the sense of the 80s. I don't know. They've only been active for about 20 years. So
what? I heard somebody talking. Now that you're mentioning this, I remember somebody mentioning like, oh, this band is basically like what The Darkness is. Remember The Darkness? They were just like, kind of a tribute to hair metal.
Okay.
But they came out in like the early 2000s.
Oh, that sounds similar, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's basically what that was, and it fit perfectly. I don't know, just for such a random song, and maybe I wouldn't have liked it otherwise, but the choreography was great. I saw a lot of other people trying to mimic it too and do like group dance numbers and stuff to this song on. Like if you just search it up on YouTube, you can find it, which is great. So perfect. Your thoughts on the intro, Phil?
Yeah, the first time I watched it, I absolutely rewound back to watch it over and laugh at it. But again, this is again why I have to just say that James Gunn is a genius of getting us to watch the intro and laugh at it. And I watched somebody do an entire breakdown of the intro and the dance, and it's actually basically a synopsis for the whole season.
Oh, really? In what way?
Yeah. Okay, so just like few beats. Like if you notice at the beginning when he's by himself and he's coming up the hallway, it's like a kind of a metaphor for how he comes into the show feeling like he's alone, and then then the first two people that come in are the people he ends up being the closest to in Vigilante and what's the other character?
Oh, that little the guy
You're talking about
Adebayo.
Was that his name?
Yeah.
The Cheeto guy. Yeah.
So yeah, when he comes into frame and then two other people start dancing with him right away, it's Vigilante and Adebayo who he ends up being the closest friends with, and then the other people start joining in. And so There's other beats like him. When he gets close to the screen, he pulls the gun out, he puts it up to the screen, and he shoots. And the first person you see after he shoots is his dad, who he ends up killing.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
It's a bunch of other stuff. It's like a whole breakdown of how it's like it basically is like foreshadowing for the entire season.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That is interesting. Now that you mentioned that, yeah, I'm sure that was done intentionally. I mean, because he's a big Easter egg guy too. So I mean, obviously from Guardians 1, and I'm sure Guardians 2 as well. He was super into that, and I think there's still unresolved Easter eggs from that first Guardians movie that people have yet to completely figure out. But that would make sense. I'm just trying to think about it now, like in terms of like there's a lot of characters, like I said, that we see in the intro. They get killed off, so maybe they could do something similar with the second season. I don't know, but there's a lot of great references and moments throughout the show that I'm missing or just forgetting right now. Did anything else from the first season of Peacemaker really stand out to you, Chris?
I mean, a ton of stuff we could talk about because it was like, 7 or 8 episodes, right?
Yeah, 8 episodes, yeah.
But I mean, overall, just I'm so happy that not only was it extremely well received, but I believe it ended up being like the best reviewed DC thing on Rotten Tomatoes ever.
Really?
At least for a while it was. Like, I think with each episode they'd update the reviews, but like nobody was giving this show bad reviews.
Wow. Would like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises count as DC stuff, like reviewed and whatever? Would that include in that category or no?
I'm not 100% sure if they were just talking about DCEU, which starts with, Man of Steel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then it's connected to that, or if they're talking about ever, because I'd imagine that there's some of those DC animated movies that have been pretty universally beloved.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if maybe it is just of like live action or just DC or whatever, but yeah, I love that this is like already getting a second season, and apparently we're getting another Suicide Squad spinoff of some kind, which James Gunn promises will be a different genre than Peacemaker. He says it won't be comedy, which makes me think it'll be more horror based because that's kind of what he likes.
I could see that.
I just don't, because I don't think it'll be a Harley Quinn thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, they already had that other movie, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think he'll go the prequel route and do anything with anyone who died like Rick Flag or Polka Dot Man. I could see it being, oh, Jesus Christ. Idris's character. Why am I blanking?
Deadshot? Killshot? Is Deadshot or something like that, or no? Is that another character?
Oh, it's Will Smith. Phil, who did Idris play again? What's his name?
Idris Elba's character. I am drawing a blank, sir. Idris Elba's character is Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. Yeah. So I could see it either being about Bloodsport or Ratcatcher. Because I could see Ratcatcher being used to create some horrifying scenes with rats.
I could see that. Do you think if they were to do that, they would bring in Taika Waititi? I forgot. I can't pronounce his last name to save my life. But you could bring in Taika to do some stuff in that show, because I know he was revealed as the dad of her character in Suicide Squad.
For flashbacks, that would be cool. And you did say his name correctly.
Oh, I did. Okay, Taika. Is it Waititi or Watiki? Is it
Waititi?
Titi. Okay, with Taika Waititi. Okay. I can never pronounce it correctly. I didn't think anyway. I got to reread up. I got to brush up on this stuff before I say it. But, okay, cool. Yeah, and that'd be awesome if they can get him in like a sort of flashback type of thing, because he made a very small cameo in that movie.
Yeah, I'm sure he would do it, too.
Yeah.
He seems like he likes making cameos and things. Like, he was in Free Guy for maybe 10 minutes of the movie.
Wasn't he the main bad guy, though?
He is, but he's still not in it that much if you actually watch that movie.
That's true. I watched that. We should have reviewed that one, because I just saw that a couple months ago and I actually really enjoyed it. I think that's on HBO Max or Disney Plus now or something, right? It's on both.
The hell out of me.
That is very weird, but hey, it's a great movie, so hopefully more people can see it. But back to the DC thing for a sec. Isn't it weird? And I know we probably talked about this when we talked about Suicide Squad last summer, but I mean, with the DC stuff, do you think they're finally in a swing of good things going forward? Because it feels like for the last several years, they've been very inconsistent with like a really good project, really bad project, somewhere in the middle. I mean, it actually didn't really feel like there was any in between. It was either people really liked whatever they were putting out or didn't like it. And I don't know if that's like a pro wrestling Star Wars thing where it's either really good or really bad. There's no in between with the fans, or if the projects are actually just that. They're either great or they're terrible. It's hard for me to decipher because I'm more of a Marvel guy personally, but I don't know, between this, Suicide Squad, and the Batman that just came out, which again, we'll talk about that at some point soon, I'm sure. That was a great movie as well, in my opinion. Do you think this is the kind of turning point for DC with so much stuff coming out? I mean, with the more movies coming out soon, there's a higher percentage that they don't do well, or they're not critically acclaimed or whatever. But what do you think, Chris, as far as is the swing of things that we're getting right now from DC? Is it good, bad, or what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I hope that it keeps going in the good direction. I mean, Shazam was pretty well liked, so I think Shazam will probably be okay. I'm really curious to see how Black Adam is. Like, I will go see that one in the theater. I'm very interested in that. Aquaman, who I'm sure will be just a fun CGI extravaganza like the first one. The Flash is really what I'm most interested in because, like, we're going to kind of see what they decide to use the multiverse for going forward. Like, I would not be shocked if they inserted a scene of Pattinson's Batman in the Flash to establish, like, this is all multiverse stuff.
That's a movie, right?
Yeah, the next Flash movie that's coming out with Ezra Miller, like, whenever they decide to get, they might even be done filming it by now. I'm not sure, but.
Well, he had a show too. Is that correct?
Well, that was Grant Gustin. That was separate. That was connected to all the other TV shows like Arrow and Supergirl and stuff. Gotcha. But Ezra Miller, who's the Flash from the Justice League, will have his own movie finally, which it's been in development hell since they announced it, however many freaking years ago that was.
Didn't it just get pushed back again?
I think the release did, but I believe they've finished filming most, if not all of it. But all the releases got pushed back for some reason.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I think I saw Liam tweet about that on a couple of days ago. But it's interesting. Like I said, I think I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Shazam 2 still comes out in December. And I'm pretty sure Black Adam still comes out this summer. I could be wrong about that, but I know at least those two are coming out. Beyond that, I'm not sure what the dates are and anything. I think they kind of extend into like 2024, so it might be a while. But what are your thoughts, Phil, on this kind of phase of DC that we're getting right now? I mean, again, like I said, I know you guys have yet to see Batman, but between this and Suicide Squad, I know Wonder Woman 2 wasn't very well received. I wasn't a big fan of that movie at all, personally. But, your thoughts on if they can, like Chris said, kind of keep the momentum going forward?
I think it doesn't bode well for people that really wanted the Snyderverse to come back, that everything since Snyder has been away has been better.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock at Snyder or anybody that likes his work, but it has. Like, I mean, when you look at everything they've done, like, it, even if it's dark, it feels like its own thing. Like, Suicide Squad and this doesn't feel like anything else DC has made, even though it's dark. And that's kind of my gripe with some people. They're like, okay, well, Snyder's stuff was not good because it was dark. Like, no, you can make dark things, but it has to be engaging in some way. And a lot of his stuff just wasn't that interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know we didn't do a formal review of it, but I think we're all kind of in agreement that it wasn't that good. Now, again, like I said, I'm not maybe the best person to speak on it because I'm not the biggest DC guy. I haven't seen everything, but I did see the original Justice League. I did see Snyder Cut. I wasted 4 hours of my life watching it. Can't say it was really anything impressive to me personally. But yeah, would you agree with that, Chris, as far as they're probably not going to go anything deeper into that Snyder Cut universe direction, which some people were hoping for?
I mean, the only thing I could see happening is, like, I think Zack Snyder, even though he's said he's content not working with DC anymore, did say that he wouldn't mind working with Henry Cavill on another Superman. And I know Henry Cavill is pretty keen on returning as Superman, so that's the one thing I could see. But it feels like all the Wonder Woman stuff is totally disconnected from the Snyder stuff. Like, I know that the first Wonder Woman had a couple of Snyderish scenes in it, but the second one did not at all feel like it was part of the Snyderverse.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we'll see if they do anything further with it. Or go ahead.
Oh, you mean the movie where she ended up talking down the villain at the end and ending everything in a peaceful way, and then she gets into the Snyder Cut movie and chops somebody's head off?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see where they go with it going forward. At least we have Moon Knight to at least look forward to in the meantime. That's in a couple weeks. And before then, though, you guys still got to go see the Batman. So at some point when you guys go see it, let me know, and hopefully we can chat about it. If you absolutely hated it, we'll talk about that, too.
When does Doctor Strange come out again?
Early May. Or late May? I think it's May 7th or 9th or something like that. I think it's early May. Because I think late May is Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think. So, yeah, I think it's like first week of May, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out like the 25th or something that same month.
My God.
And then Moon Knight, it was revealed today. It's only 6 episodes, so that'll wrap up like right before Doctor Strange comes out. So we got another stretch of like something every week for like the next 6 months or whatever.
It seems like all the live-action shows, other than WandaVision, which necessitated more episodes because they were going for the sitcom half-hour format.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of these shows will probably be 6 episodes unless it ties into something much, much bigger.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, almost all the shows that have come out so far that have all been roughly an hour, right? I mean, this was an hour. Peacemaker was an hour. The Boba Fett show, I know that was Star Wars, but that was an hour. Have any shows been close to like 30 minutes or so, or have they all been 60?
Well, Peacemaker jumped around. It was like the last episode was, I think, an hour and 8 minutes, but there was one episode that was only 40.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I think most of the Marvel ones tend to be pretty much in that 45 to 55 minute range. And then, WandaVision was the exception, but, being on streaming gives them the freedom to do it however they want. So I'm not surprised when we get like one episode at the end that's significantly longer, because it makes more sense to do that.
No, yeah, exactly. Especially with the season finale, or like it was with the case with Peacemaker. So, we'll see what they do. We have another, I think, 2 weeks from when we speak right now until Moon Knight comes out, and having seen the trailers, it looks great. But before then, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure we'll talk about the Batman before then. Curious to get your guys' thoughts as whether you liked it as much as I did, or if you absolutely hated it. Either way, we'll get your thoughts on it at some point in the next few weeks. But until then, guys, you're on the Twitter machines. Chris, you're on Twitter at BR_Doctor. Phil, you're on Twitter at PhilDL616. This has been great, guys. Thanks so much. I'll speak to you next week.
Thanks.